which means we're riled up, which is the perfect thing to transition to because Hall
I hate you
Monitor
so
season.
much, and I'm gonna hate you even more.
Oh no,
You
not
will
yet,
hate
not
me
yet,
even more.
David. Wait till the end of this when we do the thing that you hate the most.
Yeah, we should start like with the Hall of Fame like sirens right now. But
Get the whistle.
Hall of Fame weekend, there was. I got you anyways.
No
I'll
running in
figure
the
it out for you.
hallway.
Hall of Fame weekend is once again come and gone. So before we even get into Hall Monitor, I just want to ask you guys, were there any final thoughts, whether it be on the class or the week at large, anything you guys want to say?
Let me rip this off. I'm not going to lie. I didn't watch a single second. I recorded it. I will be watching it this week. I was out golfing all weekend, which I don't regret because it's been rainy and gross and shitty here in Columbus all day. But I wish I saw Joe Thomas, and I'm probably going to cry in my living room.
Oh, you will.
I got to be honest, I'm right there with you. I didn't watch the speeches, but I will say this, of this class, it's one of my favorite so far because guys like Zach Thomas I've been fighting for and say should be in. And then obviously Joe Thomas, Darrell Rivas, all first ballot for sure guys. There wasn't really anyone that I had like a argument somebody should have been in over him for sure.
Well, even guys like Ken Riley and Joe Klecko, they're kind of guys that they're really exciting for me when I go to these things or watch these things because I didn't know a lot about either of those guys going into this. And then you kind of just, because you hear these guys talk, you can't help but get a little infatuated. You start looking up a little bit and you learn about these guys. Like Klecko, the dude, it was so much fun to watch his highlights. He is like I don't even know, it'd be like a J.J. Watt before J.J. Watt. He was an all-pro at defensive tackle, at nose tackle, and at defensive end in his career. It's like, that's so stupid that you can be that good. And again, he got so many penalties for offsides purely because the ref just assumed that he jumped off sides when he had a good jump. It's just, I love things like that. So naturally, I love the class, which is funny because now we go into our Hall Monitor segment where, again, there's kind of this, I feel like this like brand that David and I have where David wants every person that's ever played football to
That's such a misrepresentation.
You're so anal, dude. You don't want anyone to have fun.
That's such a misrepresentation. I am more passionate about some of the borderline guys, and you're like, I don't want anyone in unless they're LeBron James of the sport.
Well, we'll find out about that because one of these borderline guys later, we might have a surprise take from both of us. So we'll get to that. But Steven, you're going to be our Hall Monitor.
Yes, sir. Do you boys have your Hall passes, or do I need to?
We're about to find out. Who's our first person on the dock?
I think
Steven?
Wally should be locked up. But Jesus.
So the first person that we have here on the docket, we have an NFL MVP of 2016, the Offensive Player of the Year that same year, as well as the Rookie of the Year when he first came in, a first-time All-Pro, as well as a four-time Pro Bowler. One Mr. Matthew Ryan is up. David, I'm going to start with you.
All right, so you said a lot, but like Matt Ryan is seventh in all-time passing yards. The only Hall of Famers the only non-Hall of Famers he's behind are Big Ben, who's a surefire Hall of Famer, and Phillip Rivers, who also is on the borderline. He's only behind those two by 2,000 or less yards, and he played 3 fewer seasons than Big Ben, 2 fewer seasons than Phillip Rivers. 9th in all-time passing touchdowns, fewer turnovers than all the guys above him on that list. 8th in passing yards per game, 9th in passing attempts per game, which is only 2 more attempts per game than Dan Marino, who we thought was like the only guy of his era to throw that prolifically, right? And by the way, Herbert and Patrick Mahomes both throw 4 more pass attempts per game and 6 more pass attempts per game than Matt Ryan did. He sits in like the middle.
Cool. We have more non-Hall of Famers. Great.
Oh, wow. All right. So 12th in all-time completion percentage, 4th all-time in fourth quarter comebacks behind only Brady, Manning, and Big Ben. He holds or held the following records, right? So most regular season wins by a quarterback in his first 5 seasons. Consecutive NFL games with 200 passing yards. most passing yards in the first 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 years in NFL history. Most pass completions in the first 7 years, 8 years, 9 years, all the way to 15 years in NFL history. Steven said it earlier, NFL MVP, Rookie of the Year, first team All-Pro, 4-time Pro Bowler. He consistently performed at a high level for 10 plus years. He propelled himself into the Hall of Fame discussion because of that consistency, his ability, and I don't know, because he's all-time found ways to win except for one game, which will be probably his downfall, which is the Super Bowl, and I don't even blame him for that loss.
No, we all know you're blaming on that loss, David. Let's get real here. Your boy Kyle Shanahan. I will say the eight yards per game, only reason he's not top 5 is because Mahomes, Herbie, and Joey B are all above him, but we all know how those stats are going to fluctuate. Same thing with completion percentage. There's a boatload of guys that are in here now that are kind of tipping the scales a little bit. But David, I do like that. I do like the argument. Yeah, you know what? You were saying a lot that was written down on here, but let's see if Wally can do anything here special.
Well, I'll start with this because we're going to talk about another player, Frank Gore, and we're going to talk about stats, and that's going to be a big reason for the argument for Frank Gore is longevity career stats. So for Matt Ryan, my argument against that is that quarterbacks, if we're going on this stat-heavy approach going forward, we're never going to see guys like running backs or wide receivers get in because they're going to be drastically lower, or at least running backs, maybe not wide receivers. But what?
The top 25 running backs in like yards per game, total yards are in the Hall of Fame. But go ahead, finish.
That's a warning, Mr. Claiborne.
I was. Thank you so much, homeowner. I'm like, is this
That's
serious?
a warning for you too, Wally. No, you opened your arms and allowed the ass grabbing.
This is an outrage. But anyways, you mentioned 4-time Pro Bowl, 1-time All-Pro. That is drastically low for quarterbacks in the Hall of Fame. It sounds like it's actually a good thing when you say it, but Pro Bowls 4 is actually very low, especially in an era where David and I can get invited to a Pro Bowl because everybody's turning them down. There are so many people.
That was not the era he played in.
He played up until this year. That's happened for the last 6-7 years. And he's had 4 Pro Bowls. My point leading into that is quarterbacks in the same era that played football with him. Drew Brees. And these are guys that overlap, whether it be for 2-3 years or more. These are guys that played in the same era as him. I'm going to say names. You tell me if you think they're better than any of these guys. Drew Brees, Kurt Warner, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Phillip Rivers, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Andrew Luck, Big Ben, Brett Favre, Tony Romo. And then you even get guys like Russell Wilson, Carson Palmer, Donovan McNabb.
Wilson in there.
No,
I don't like Russell Wilson. None of those guys are getting
He's
either.
better than Tony Romo. He's equal to Phillip Rivers.
Ooh, I disagree on
you
both
are
of those.
outside your mind. Phillip Rivers and Matt Ryan might as well be equal.
Ooh.
And you listed like 5 first ballot Hall of Famers. I'm not saying Matt Ryan's a first ballot Hall of Famer, but do I think he deserves to get in eventually? Absolutely.
But then you go back, like if you're going by era, look how long it took guys like Ken Anderson, who was the 3rd best quarterback in his entire era. He's not even in yet. This guy we're talking about is what, the 7th or 8th best quarterback in his era? He's never got hardware. What is he going to be remembered for in his MVP season? He's going to be remembered for a 28-3 loss.
Let's go down a list of NFL Hall of Fame players, and you tell me what play you remember them most by. I bet you can't name half of them.
Well, yeah, the quarterbacks I bet you could, because quarterback is the face of the league.
I bet you couldn't for half of them.
The big thing you will remember with Matt Ryan is a 28-3 loss. What else in his career did he do exceptional? Most of those other guys in the Hall of Fame that haven't won anything that you can point to MVP season after MVP season.
Is Jimmy Garoppolo a Hall of Famer because he wins more than everyone else? I'm
not with that at all. I'm just saying that what did Matt Ryan do at any point that you can point to say that was exceptional?
Everything. He played exceptionally every single season. He just was
overshadowed
by Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, and Tom Brady.
I think we need to get back to class, you two.
All right.
Are you
all
done,
right.
Wally?
We'll never
Where we
agree
going?
on it. We'll never agree on it.
I was just saying, let me.
but-
Oh, well, the only other thing I'd have for you, real quick, is I know that this is very because we'll talk about it later today. It's very unreliable, but when I think that there is something to be said about how the fellow player views somebody, and Matt Ryan only 6 times in his career was in the top 100 players voted, and he was only in the top 53 times, top 10 once. At no point in his career did players in the league say Matt Ryan is elite. And that would be my big thing. 3 seasons, only 3 seasons with fewer than 10 interceptions, only 3 seasons with 30 touchdowns or more.
How many times has Joel Bitonio made it in his 10-year career? And he's been one of the top guards in the NFL.
All right, now we're
It's a little
now we're
different
gonna,
for guards
now
and
we're gonna
quarterbacks.
apples and oranges.
Fair
Let's
enough.
blow it
It's-
right
the top
there.
100 is such a stupid, it's
Trust
like
me, we'll have
guys,
our
just
time
saying,
for
guys
that.
who miss 14 games get on the top 100 for the year. Like, I miss me with that.
So
Because they are the top 100 going into next year is what the argument is.
that's stupid. So one thing I'd like to go on. There's a couple different things that I had here I want to dissect. So I think David brought up the QB wins. If we're not going to count QB wins, which we're all against, I don't think we can count QB losses. But man, it's so hard to forget that loss. Let's be real here.
It's not fair, but it's just that's what he's remembered for.
The length. I don't think you can make the length argument for a quarterback because not only are quarterbacks playing longer, they've always kind of had that 13 to 16 year window. I think Matt Ryan fit that perfectly, and we're just always going to remember him for that downfall in the past 18 months to 2 years. Things I was surprised during his tenure, his whole career, he would be, or in his time in the NFL, 2008 to 2022, we had second in yards, fourth in touchdowns, 11 in completion percentage. He was second in interceptions, I'll give you that, but he was also sacked the second most times in his career.
That's true. That's a big
He
point.
did have a lot of help. He had Roddy Whites of the world. You have the Julio Jones of the world.
Tony
the
Gonzalez.
Tony Gonzalez's of the world.
The end of career Tony
Tony
Gonzalez.
Gonzalez
Don't
was
give-
still Tony
I'm
Gonzalez.
going to look it up right now, but I was going to say, I bet he played well at the end of his career. He
like
felt
the first
important.
year in
Maybe
Atlanta,
I'm
they're
wrong.
not.
And there's one more like
the
tricky
last.
little third man receiver
pull it
I'm
up.
thinking of, like Harry Douglas. That's who it was. Harry Douglas.
Harry fucking
So
Douglas.
my official ruling on this is Matt Ryan will get into Hall of Fame at a later date. I'm going to go with, if I'm setting the over-under ballots, I'd go with over-under 4.5.
Okay. I mean, I think you both are wrong, but we'll find out, I guess, in 10 years. When
Shocker,
Exactly,
you
that's-
wouldn't let Marilyn Monroe into the club if you had to pick.
No, she's not.
Well, yeah, pick
She's
hot
too-
girls. Well, she's dead, so.
That's true. She is extremely dead.